Hi, this is Hilary Burns. My show, The Getting Real with Hilary Show, is dedicated to you. This show is meant to inspire you and to have other guests on who have a story, who might have been stuck, to inspire you that you can also get unstuck and create a life you love. That we can all be free, we don't have to feel alone, and we don't have to feel that there's something wrong with us. That's my message, and I hope you'll join and tune in for some exciting adventures and interviews. This is Hilary Burns, and welcome to the Getting Real with Hilary show, where we say what can't be said and the AAA formula for freedom, which is awareness, acceptance, and action. And this is part 2 with Jeff Johnston, who is the founder of the Living Undeterred Project, a nonprofit organization. He also has a for-profit. And what Jeff is, his mission is changing the narrative on mental health, substance abuse, and addiction. And, you know, in part 1, Jeff told his, I would say, life-altering story of what happened with him. If you haven't heard that, please listen to part 1. But Jeff has taken some tragedies, and instead of becoming a victim, Jeff is using his life's experience to impact the world and save every human by altering the conversation for adolescents, and he can say it better than me, I can't find my notes, but changing the dialogue of our teenagers. So do you want to save that? Now I'll just tell you a little bit about I had a very good friend who she suffered from mental illness as well, and she ended up jumping off a building in New York City.
Wow.
And I have decided that I wanted to have suicide not be a word anymore, and that that there's no reason for people to do that. And my take on it is that we all get, when we listen to our thoughts, as we were talking about in part 1, our thoughts are not our friends. They're very negative, and they're meant to protect us, but actually they keep us very small and tell us what's wrong with us. So in altering that and having people get into dialogue, I believe that we can, kind of elevate humans to not believing our thoughts and getting our greatness, that we all have gifts. We all were put here for a reason, that we all have something to give away, rather than believe our thoughts that there's something wrong with us. And that's why we need to numb ourselves. And in my memoir, I talked about when I was numbing myself, just because I wasn't even aware that I was doing it. But once I stopped, I got to see, oh, I didn't really like my life. But I got to then, once I accepted it, so first I was aware, then I accepted it. And then when I stopped fighting it and making myself wrong, I could see actions to take, and I did take actions, and I did alter it. And now, I love my life, and I'm doing things to inspire others who may have found themselves in the same place. So it sort of ties in with your mission, on some path. Yours, I think, is more, substance abuse and addiction, which I believe is a form of numbing. Why are we numbing ourselves? So maybe, what do you have to say about all that?
If you think of mental health as a wheel, and the spokes are depression, anxiety, alcohol, drugs, suicidal ideation, those are spokes on the wheel of mental health. So it's impossible for us or any two humans to talk and not share a personal story that isn't a spoke on the wheel of mental health. It's impossible. So
And do you think that everybody falls on that wheel?
Well, I think we all have mental health. We all have to have spokes. So I think, and this is something
when you mean, sorry to interrupt, but
yeah.
mental health, like you said, it's a trigger warning. what do you like that triggers me, the mental health. So what do you mean by it?
It means you're human.
Okay.
That's it.
Enough. Okay. All right.
I didn't say mental illness. I said mental health.
Okay. Got it. Yeah,
Huge
I
difference.
was
And
automatically hearing mental illness. So thank you
right.
for
And most people
clarifying.
do. That's a
Yeah.
stigma.
Awesome.
And
Thank
so I
you.
just say mental health, and we all have it, unless you're a cyborg or something. But I think one of the problems is, and this is the typical way the media portrays a mental illness or a spoke on the wheel. So let's take, for example, addiction. Okay. And the perception is that addiction is this thing that sits in the corner of the room. And when you walk by, some people walk by and it jumps on their back and it attaches on their back. And then what you need to do is you need to eradicate addiction. You need to take the addiction, go to a 12-step meeting, go to a class, take a pill, whatever. But you need to extract this thing, this external thing. And I think that's just inaccurate. I think it's within all of us. It's a process. I think depression's in all of us. I think anxiety's in all of us. And why we have to label things. Well, I know why we have to for insurance claims. You can't file anything on insurance unless you have a name for it. And so we make up names and then we can file for insurance. But if we didn't have anything to do with insurance, majority of the diagnosis out there wouldn't have a name for them. So I think what people think is, okay, I have a bipolar disorder. Okay. So that's this thing over there in the corner. And if I don't take this pill, this thing's going to jump on my back. And I think we have to start saying, you know what? It's a process of evolution. It's a process of us. Some of these things, like you said, are defensive mechanisms that our ancestors had back in the caves, fear and anxiety and hunger and anger, all these things. We didn't invent these things. I mean, they're in animals. It's like, but I think we try to disassociate ourselves from some of these things instead of really dealing with it. So let me give you a best example.
Okay.
Over Christmas last year, and I've never had suicidal ideation. And over Christmas
can you,
yeah,
I've heard the term. Can you just define it? Is it just thinking about it?
Yeah, it's basically the thought of taking your life. And then there's stages, like apparently, where if you have it planned out, there's different levels. So I've never really sat around and had a point in my life. Even when my son died, I didn't want to die. Matter of fact, I talk about this publicly, the dynamic between not wanting to live, but not wanting to die. That's the ultimate purgatory. And when I was drinking myself to death, literally, when Seth died, I didn't want to live, but I didn't want to die. I had 2 other sons. I mean, I had friends. I just didn't want to get out of bed, but I certainly didn't want to die. And then my wife died, kind of the same thing. Here it is again. And so over Christmas, my wife, we had like 5 or I think it was 7 boxes in my living room. And I was walking by him. And my son's in college. My other son was at a friend's house, and it was on a Friday. And this was just Christmas of last Christmas. Okay. So what, 8 months ago, 9 months ago.
And your wife was still, or is this
no, she died. She died.
So she wasn't. Okay. I thought you said
my wife died in October,
2021.
2021, June of 21.
Okay.
So that Christmas, okay, last Christmas, I was by myself on a Friday, and I was Mr. Living Undeterred. I think I just did a podcast, kind of like this. I was all kind of jacked up and feeling pretty good about myself. And I opened up one box that was sitting right there. And it's just it never, ever ceases to amaze me how fast grief hits me.
What was in the box? Was that your wife's stuff or?
Oh, it was my son. And there's a letter on top that he wrote to me when he was in prison. And it's 4 pages long, and I've never read pages 2, 3, and 4 to this day. But it says, "Dear Mom and Dad, I feel this letter is long overdue." And I started reading it. And I went from here to here in 5 seconds. And it just got everything I started going to, pictures of when I coached him, and just all these things started coming back. And so I said, okay, I gotta go to the next box. I pushed it aside and opened up the next box, and it was my wedding pictures and our trips to London. And just like I said, I went from here to here so fast. And I sat there and I thought to myself, it takes me 7.5 seconds to get to my safe and get my gun and shoot myself. It was the most terrifying moment of my life. And it was on a Friday, and I shut my phone off. I shut my computer off. I was the loneliest human on the planet. But if you would have called me, Hilary, I wouldn't have answered the phone. I mean, I was alone, but I didn't want to talk to anybody. And 2 days later, my business partner's wife comes over. I don't remember. I know I just sat in bed and watched Netflix probably, but I didn't want to get out of bed. I didn't drink. I didn't do drugs. But I just, I wanted to crawl in the hole, and I wanted to never come out. And my business partner's wife came over and knocked because my phone was blowing up. My sons were trying to call me and reach me, and I wasn't answering the phone. And it was that Sunday night, and they came over, and I was just laying on the couch, and I was an absolute mess. And what happened was I started telling him what happened, and they didn't say anything. They just let me talk. And I'm like crying and holding pictures going, what am I going to do with this stuff? I mean, somebody's going to get it when I die. And what are they going to do with it? And how do you throw out a shirt that your son owned? I mean, it's so hard to explain to people. And then I finally decided, you know what? I got to figure out why this happened. As a research mind, that's a skeptic in me. It's like, I got to figure out why I did this. And I did. I figured it out. I had skipped my meditation for about 10 days. I had skipped running on my elliptical. So what happened, Hilary, is I got overconfident. I got complacent in my therapy. And what I was doing that was working really well, I just thought for a moment I don't have to do it anymore. It's like going off your diet. And it almost cost me my life. So now I added 10 minutes. So I was doing 10 minutes. Now I do 20 every single morning. And if I don't run an hour every day, I die. That's my mindset.
Wow.
So if it's 9:00 at night on a Friday and my boys are here, they see me going down the elliptical. They go, where are you going, Dad? I'm going to go run or I'm going to die. That's what I say, because to me, it's that critical. I stay on top of my game. So I share this story, not for sympathy and pity, but for compassion and love and empathy and courage, that no matter who you are, in this case, I'm Mr. Living Undeterred. I have a following of people that think I'm bulletproof. Just 8 months, 9 months ago, I almost ended my life.
Wow.
And that's terrifying in itself. But I think it's important that I share that, because I fight this every day. But I also feel like I'm the luckiest person on the planet. And I'm also the best place emotionally I've ever been in my life. But I work really, really hard. I don't drink. I eat healthy. I exercise. I don't watch TV. You know, Hilary, I've made a lot of sacrifices, but I'm afraid if I take shortcuts, I really believe I'm going to die. And I got too much life to live. I mean, life is beautiful. I've got family. I've got people that rely on me. I've got people that call me and text me every day saying I saved their life. And it's like, I don't want to let any of these people down, you know? So that really keeps me going.
And how are your sons now? How
They're
old are
amazing.
they now?
Absolutely amazing.
How old are they?
21 and 19. My 21-year-old just won the Courage Award in college. He's a college golfer at South Dakota, Division I golfer.
Wow.
And out of all men's and women's sports, he was selected last year at the banquet for winning the Courage Award. He raised about $40,000 in high school after his brother died when he was in high school through golf. And they named an award after my son, the Ian Johnston Award, on the golf team in high school while he was still a student.
Wow.
You don't have that happen very often. And then CBS Sports came out here from my house about a year and a half after Seth died, and they did a whole story on Ian, and it's on the internet. You just Google Ian Johnston, IANJOHNSTON, and put in CBS Sports, and there's a 9-minute documentary that was done while Ian was in high school, and Roman, I think, was 14. And Zach Johnson, the Ryder Cup captain this year, narrated it.
Wow.
Yeah, it's amazing, Hilary, how this has gone. And then my youngest son, Roman, 2 years ago, I think a year and a half ago, came out as gay. And it was such an awesome experience to be a heterosexual male living in Iowa and have a gay son, and for him to trust me, to tell me. And it's funny because we did a podcast. I immediately said, do you want to do a podcast? So we did a podcast called An Act of Love, how we should have these conversations. and shouldn't be blinded by a God that doesn't like homosexuality or a ideology or mindset that's against all this stuff, because gay teens have a 5 times more likely chance to kill themselves, and that is ridiculous in and of itself. And
Wow.
so, and that's because of their inability to communicate with adults, because of stigmas and religion and all these things that just are barriers to having good, healthy relationships with our kids. So we did a podcast called An Act of Love, and it was one of the most watched podcasts on my podcast. And
Really?
we rehearsed the day he told me. I was watching a football game, and he comes in like he's seen the movies, and he sits down. Dad, I got to tell you something. I'm like, hold on a second. It's first down, you know? And he tells me, and I pause it, and I look at him, and I go, well, Roman, maybe it's a phase. Maybe it's something you'll outgrow. Don't commit to anything yet. And then I immediately, when I said it, I thought, you're the worst dad in the world. This isn't poison ivy, Dad. This is who he is. And I immediately started crying. I hugged him. I said, Roman, thank you for telling me. And thank you for not doing something like taking your life over something like this. You
Wow.
know, this is your life, dude. You know, if you're gay, be the best gay you can be, man. So he's an advocate for LGBTQ.
Wow.
His friends look up to him. He doesn't drink. It's like, you know, their older brother would be so proud of him. I mean, Seth would be so proud of his little brothers, because they didn't go down that road that he went down. And I'm sure that he is thinking right now, or looking back saying, boy, I am so proud of my little brothers that they looked at my death and they became better men. And that is what living undeterred is all about. That is, we all have this ability. I'm not anything special. I'm just a dad from Iowa. I don't think there's anything special with me. So if I can do all this, why can't you? Why can't anyone going through trauma or grief or suffering? Why can't we learn to just pivot and somehow reframe it and turn it into something good in our life? You know, I don't know. Why can't we?
Right.
Why don't we? Right.
Right. Now, the Courage Award,
Mm-hmm.
was that for what he did in high school, or did he do more in college? When did
He
he
did
get that?
more. After he
Okay.
graduated high school, when they named the award after him, and we have a scholarship after Seth. He is in the program called the American Junior Golf Association, and it's like the PGA. It's the best. It's
Wow.
worldwide men and women. And there was an award called the Jerry Cole Sportsmanship Award, and it's like the Payne Stewart Award in PGA golf. They give it to one boy or girl in the world. And I submitted Ian's application in, and lo and behold, he won the award. And he got to fly to Florida and got to golf with Ricky Fowler. And, you know, I still stand and I think to myself, how many good things have come out of my son's death? And that's all because we were focused on trying to do good things. We weren't waiting for good things to happen. And with attention deficit, I wait very poorly. And I just decided that we need to go out and be advocates. You know, there's another Seth out there that's going to die today and tomorrow. And I want to have a chance to see that kid at a school, you know, meeting, or at on social media or something, have a chance to affect their life. And you know, I will tell you too, Hilary, selfishly, this is for me. I had someone once say, well, Jeff, you know, a goal is to help one person a day. And I said, you know what, though? Maybe that one person is me. Maybe I'll speak in front of 30 kids and not so one of them will get helped. And if that's the case, I'll be the one person helped. So I can never have a bad day. I can never have a bad presentation. I can never have a bad live stream. Attendance is irrelevant, because if nobody shows up and I speak to an empty room, then I'll be the one person that benefits that day. So there's no downside in what I'm doing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's incredible. Now, you just, because I'm gonna ask what I'm curious about. When you
Yeah,
were because I can, right?
that's what it's your show.
Yeah, exactly. Now, you had said you were a financial advisor. Did
Yeah.
you stop doing that when you started doing this, or are you
Yeah.
still like you stopped doing that? So
32 years. I did this since I was 23. And when Seth died, I told my staff I wasn't going to come back for a year. I tried to come back, and I was the president of the company with
mhm.
my business partner. And I came back about a year and a half right after I quit drinking, and had an appointment with a client that had been with the firm for a long time. And I sat in the meeting with her, and we were talking about her investments, and she was up money and everything was okay. And then she started talking about $100 a year fee in an IRA account, and she knew I lost a child. My wife was still alive, but she knew what I'd been through, and she started really like getting hung up on expenses, and she made like $100,000 in profits that year. And I said, "Excuse me a minute," and I shut my notepad. I walked down the hallway to my business partner's office. And remember, I started this company, I was 32 or 23. And I said, "Brock, I'm done. I'm done seeing clients." And
Wow.
I haven't seen a client since. I just walked out of the office that day. Now I haven't sold a company. I got people running it, and our clients in the firm are all there, and we didn't lose a lot of people, and everything's good. But I just don't, I don't have that desire to on wealth and money like I used to. And now I do, but I want to take what I make and do something good with it. You know, do more with my nonprofit, do more with scholarships, do more with touring, and trying to help people on mental health and substance use disorders and addiction. So I am driven by money, but it's a whole different purpose now.
And how do you raise the money with your nonprofit? Like how does that survive?
I'm terrible at it. Most of it's been all my own money. I'm in a fortunate position, and I know this right now, that people that have lost children have to go teach class a week later. They have to go be a nurse. They have to, do whatever. I'm lucky that I had the financial resources that I could walk away. I get that. So I don't want to squander that opportunity. So no, I've not made any money at all. Like I told you, I wanted to raise $1 million on my tour. I raised 30,000. I spent, my RV alone was almost $300,000. I did that with my own money. I'm not saying this to gloat about my financial situation, because it's going backwards quickly, but I'm not worried about it. I'm not worried about it. I got my eye on the ball. I know exactly what I'm doing. I know that if I keep doing what I'm doing, there is no downside. And money is just a means to do more good. So I will find a way to raise money. I'm not worried about that. Money's like not a barrier for me. Even if I didn't have any, I still would find ways to get it.
Mm.
Either through fundraising. We do a golf outing. We're doing a conference next year in Cedar Rapids. I'm going to do the Living Undeterred Mental Health Hour call-in show here locally on radio. I'm going to buy an hour a week on the local AM here and do a radio show. So like I said, I'm doubling down. So I lost money on the tour, but I'm going all in. It's like I'm putting in my chips before I look at my cards, So yeah, I have to do a really good job. I got to really make sure I'm out there constantly. So like being on your show is another opportunity for me to share the story, for people to go to our website. I wrote a book. I've never looked how many books I've sold. To be honest with you, that's not why I wrote it. I wrote it as a memoir for my son. I really wrote it for my granddaughter. She was born 3 weeks after her dad died. So I have a 5-year-old granddaughter named Brighton, and her dad's dead and her mom abandoned her. So she's 5 and she's an angel, and she's got no mom or dad. And my first sentence in my book is, "This is for Seth, Roman, Ian, Prudence, and Brighton." And 2 of them are here, and one of them doesn't have parents. And I'm going to make sure that she knows who her dad was, the good and the bad, because everyone else in these families, typically in most families, don't want to talk about anything bad. And she needs to be very fully aware of what happened, but not now at 5.
And
Now we
who
just
does
have
she live
fun.
with? Yeah, who does she live with?
Grandma stepped up heroically. The mom's mom, and adopted, and many other people have stepped in and done a great job. So Brighton is full of love. She's got a great circle of people that are doing the best to make sure she has the best chances to be a good kid. But I know in my heart, Seth would have been a great dad. And it's
And you
just
get to see her? You get to
yeah, I
see
saw
her.
her last week. I see her
Oh,
almost every week. Yeah, she stays
okay.
at my house, and grandpa spoils
Oh.
her. And so yeah, someone said one time, Hilary, and I'm going to say this, and I hope I don't upset people, but someone said, Jeff, your story's so tragic. And I said, no, tragic's a baby drowning in a pool. Tragic is your wife getting breast cancer. Tragic is your parents dying in a car wreck by a drunk driver. Mine's not tragic. Mine's unfortunate. Mine's unnecessary, but it
Mm.
certainly isn't tragic. I don't accept that condolence. It's not tragic. It's unfortunate. Didn't have to happen. It was preventable and it was predictable. A baby drowning in a pool is neither one of those. Maybe it's preventable, but it certainly isn't predictable. But the road that my wife and my son were on for a long time with many, many warnings, the outcome was 100%. So for me, that's not tragedy. And for me, that's what drives me to make sure I can let people know the road that they're on. And we want to stay on the better road, right? Not the bitter road. That's the whole mindset behind the living undeterred mindset.
And what, for your wife to die of,
Mm-hmm.
what was it, just too much
Alcohol.
alcohol?
Yeah. And I tell you what, I don't say that to be disparaging. My wife was the greatest person on the planet. She was a great mom, rock star mom, the best wife I ever could have had in my life. And when you are given the death card of a child and you birthed that child, I can't comprehend the pain she must have felt. And so I by no means make statements like that for people to think I'm speaking bad about my wife.
No, but I'm just
She
wondering.
did her best. She did her
Yeah,
best for the faculties that she had,
okay.
for the for her ability to deal with these things. She did her best, and she thought alcohol was the only way through that, and it costed her life. It cost her life.
But how, I mean, for alcohol to kill you, it
Mm-hmm.
just your liver or your kidney?
Everything, everything. She weighed 80 pounds. It was in a wheelchair when she died
Oh my God. Okay.
with an oxygen tank. So, and she
Wow.
was the most vibrant, lit up a room, beautiful woman. That's what attracted me to her. She was 9 years younger than me, and I'd never been married, never been engaged, and I saw her across the room, and I told my friend, I said, "She's so beautiful that she's the last one I want to talk to tonight in the bar." It's like I didn't want to talk to her because I wasn't really interested in chasing someone like
Mm.
that. She was like outside of my league. And then she ended up hanging out with me that night. And, 5 years later, we got married. So, just, I'm grateful for meeting her that night. I'm grateful for the kids. I'm grateful for the memories. And I have to leave it at that.
Mm.
I have to remember the really good times and use the very painful times to motivate me. I got a saying that I like that I stole from Viktor Frankl. The best book I've ever read in my life was Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. I think next to the Bible, it's like the second most sold book ever.
Wow.
Um, and he was an Auschwitz concentration camp
Yeah.
survivor and done some amazing things with human psychology. But he wrote about, he said something that made me stop in my tracks when I read it, Hilary, and it was, suffering is my opportunity, or suffering will be my opportunity. And I saw that and I kind of reframed it. So my saying is pain is unavoidable, but suffering is a choice. And so I really believe that the pain of Seth's death was unavoidable. The pain of Prudence's death was unavoidable. But the suffering that comes after pain,
Mm.
that's a choice. And I choose not to suffer. And if I do suffer, I tell you, I'm going to suffer hard, but I'm going to keep it short.
Right.
I'm not going to let it linger. I'm going to
Well,
cry. I'm going to cry my what off in a fetal position until it hurts. But I know when I'm done, like going to work out, I know I'm going to feel better. And I do every single time I feel better.
wow. Well, thank you so much, Jeff. I really appreciate your, I won't say tragedy, but your,
can,
yeah,
can I tell you
what's
something
your
real quick that
circumstances, yeah, into helping others and not become a victim and
I'd like to
other
leave
situations. Yeah, go ahead, please.
leave your listeners and watchers with this one question to ask themselves. And I say this at the end of all my talks.
Okay.
Do things happen to you or do things happen for you? And if things happen to you, you're a victim. You're looking for sympathy and pity. Woe is me. Why me? Why now? Why not somebody else? Right? I call
Mhm.
that the bitter road. If things happen for you, that's a victor mindset. empathy, love, courage, sympathy, empathy, love, courage, strength, compassion. I call that the better road. And I had someone one time after a young lady came up afterwards and she said, Jeff, I have to ask you, your talk was great, but how could you bury a child and bury your wife and this be for you? And I thought, great question. And this is how I answered it. I said, it must be for me, because if it's not for me, it's to me. And if it's to me, that's the bitter road. I'm on the better road. And for that reason alone, it has to be for me. And that's how I end all my presentations. And so the average person out there, doesn't matter what they're going through. They don't have to have buried a child, or in your case, had a friend jump off a building, or have attempted suicide. Anything can be spun that way, can be reframed that way. No matter what happens to you, you can make it for you if you have the right mindset.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for that. I'm writing a second book about the two sides of life.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's kind of similar, not to reframe what we have thought is negative. So yeah. So thank you so much. Again, Jeff Johnston, founder of the Living Undeterred Project.
Yep.
And Living Undeterred, you could find him at www.livingundeterred.com. Anything
and
else you want to?
.org too. Yeah, it's
also .org. Okay.
Yeah, I think if you go to .com, it takes you over to .org, but either way it works. But yeah,
awesome.
we have lots of social media presence. So we have lots of projects. I'm going to do another tour next summer. I'm only going to do a 30-day tour around the country, so people can follow us. Obviously, if they feel compelled to donate, that would be great. If not, we're still going to do what we're doing. So
yeah, thank you so much. And please, he's doing amazing stuff. Check him out, and maybe you can help, or maybe someone wants to hear Jeff's message. So thank you again for being here today.
My pleasure. Thank you very much, Hilary.